For decades, it was the stuff of legend, a rumor whispered among scholars and psychologists. It was said to be a massive, weighty tome bound in crimson leather, locked away in the sterile, silent vault of a Swiss bank. It was not a royal artifact or a lost religious text. It was a man's private journal, but this was no ordinary man. This was the personal diary of Dr. Carl Gustav Jung, one of the founding fathers of modern psychology, and its contents were considered so volatile, so profoundly personal, and so potentially damaging to his scientific legacy that his family kept it sealed from the world for nearly a century after its completion. Why would a diary warrant such extreme secrecy? What could possibly be written on its pages that a family would guard it more closely than state secrets? What revelations did it hold that Jung himself, a titan of rational thought, called it the single most important work of his life, yet also described the period of its creation as a time of utter darkness and a terrifying confrontation with madness? This is the story of that book. This is the moment we unlock the vault, turn the key, and open the cover of Liber Novus, Latin for the new book, but known to the world, ominously, as the Red Book. For this is no mere journal. It is a meticulous, hand-illustrated, calligraphed record of one man's deliberate and terrifying descent into the depths of his own unconscious, a journey so perilous it birthed all of his most famous theories, and so dangerous it nearly shattered his mind forever. The stage for this psychological odyssey was set around 1913, a time of profound personal and professional crisis for Jung. On the surface, he was a man at the pinnacle of his career, a brilliant psychiatrist, a respected academic, and, most importantly, the anointed crown prince to the psychoanalytic throne of his mentor and father figure, the great Sigmund Freud. But beneath the surface, a schism was forming, one that would rupture the very foundations of his world. Freud, the strict patriarch of the new science, was dogmatic in his belief that the unconscious was primarily a repository for repressed sexual desires and childhood traumas. Jung, his prodigal son, felt this view was tragically limited. He sensed that the unconscious was something far vaster, more ancient, and more spiritual, a source, not just of neurosis, but of profound wisdom and creativity. This ideological clash was not a polite academic debate. It was a deeply personal and bitter breakup. The split from Freud in 1913 left Jung professionally isolated, spiritually adrift, and psychologically unmoored. He entered a period he later described as a confrontation with the unconscious. At the age of 38, he found himself teetering on the precipice of a full-blown psychosis. He was plagued by terrifying waking visions, of Europe being drowned in a sea of blood, of monstrous serpents, of a voice in his head that was not his own. He was a psychiatrist who seemed to be losing his own mind, but instead of seeking treatment, instead of medicating the visions away, Jung made a decision of breathtaking audacity and immense risk. He would not run. He would turn and face the abyss head-on. He decided to induce these states, to voluntarily enter the chaotic, mythic landscape of his own psyche and map its terrain. The Red Book became the vessel he built for this treacherous voyage into madness, a ship to carry him through the storm he had unleashed within himself. To navigate this treacherous inner world, Jung had to invent his own method. He called it active imagination. This was not idle daydreaming. It was a disciplined, meditative practice of focusing on an internal image or a dream fragment until it began to move and take on a life of its own. He would then step into the scene and actively engage with the figures that emerged, speaking to them, questioning them, and treating them not as symbolic fragments of himself, but as autonomous, living entities. The Red Book is the breathtaking chronicle of these dialogues with the depths. Within its pages, a pantheon of extraordinary characters came to life, each meticulously recorded in Gothic calligraphy and illustrated with stunning, vibrant paintings. There was Philemon, a wise old man with the wings of a kingfisher, who emerged from one of Jung's dreams and became his primary inner guru. It was through his long, philosophical conversations with Philemon that Jung first came to the revolutionary realization that his thoughts were not always his own, that the psyche contained independent, intelligent forces. He encountered Salome, a beautiful but blind young woman, alluring and dangerous, who was accompanied by the prophet Elijah. She became his living embodiment of the Anima, the repressed feminine aspect of the male soul. Most terrifyingly, Jung confronted what he came to call the shadow, a grotesque, dark version of himself, the personification of every quality he repressed, denied, and feared in his own character. His dialogues with the shadow were brutal and humbling, forcing him to accept the darkness that coexisted with his light. Writing and painting these encounters was more than mere documentation. It was an act of psychic survival. The painstaking, medieval-style artistry, the intricate mandalas, the detailed portraits of gods and demons. These creative acts were the anchor that kept his conscious mind from being completely swept away by the overwhelming tide of the unconscious. The book itself became the physical proof that he was still sane, a lifeline back to reality. This harrowing journey, this self-imposed flirtation with insanity, was not an exercise in morbid self-indulgence. It was the most fertile period of Jung's intellectual life. The Red Book became the raw, primordial magma from which all of his most influential and enduring psychological theories were forged. It was here, in the crucible of his own near madness, that he unearthed the treasures that would redefine our understanding of the human mind. His encounters with figures like Philemon and other mythic beings led him to a groundbreaking conclusion. He realized that these characters and symbols, the wise old man, the great mother, the trickster, the hero, were not unique to his own psyche. They were universal patterns, or archetypes, that existed in a realm deeper than personal experience. This became the foundation for his theory of the collective unconscious, a shared psychic inheritance connecting all of humanity through a common bedrock of myths, symbols, and instincts. The entire process chronicled in the Red Book: the difficult dialogues with the shadow, the integration of the feminine anima, the quest for inner wisdom became the blueprint for his central therapeutic concept, individuation. This, for Jung, was the ultimate goal of human life, the lifelong journey to unite the conscious and unconscious parts of the self, to withdraw our projections from the world, and to become a whole, complete individual. The abstract theories he would later present to the world in dry academic language were, in reality, born from his own lived, visceral, and terrifying experience. The shadow, the anima and animus, the personathes were not just intellectual constructs. They were the names he gave to the very real beings he battled and befriended in the pages of his secret book. It is crucial to understand the price of this knowledge. Jung was not a detached observer. He was a participant, living on the razor's edge between psychological exploration and clinical psychosis. He later recounted moments where he would have to cling to his desk, repeating to himself, "I am Dr. Carl Jung. I have a wife and 5 children," just to keep a tenuous grip on reality. He gambled his own sanity, and from that perilous wager, he brought back a new map of the human soul,